it's an infinite game, right? It's not a finite game, right? If you do what you love and you do it with sincerity, you're just doing it. You count the money at the end. Things are going to happen, right? Setbacks are going to happen, but do what you love and do with everything you got. There's no end to this game. If you do something you love.
This is the Impossible Podcast, an exploration of stories that broke convention, set new standards, smashed glass ceilings, and redefined the notion of what's possible. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impossible. My name is Megan Rokosh. I'm the Global Chief Marketing Officer for Havas Health and You. I'm an ally and advocate and an Aquarian, and I'm your co-host for today, joined by one of my closest friends, Ashley Miles.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Miles, founder and CEO of Franklin West, and I'm a proud girl mom, business game changer, builder and scaler of top consumer, media, and entertainment companies, and I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you today.
Welcome to Impossible, the podcast where we give you a seat at the table to uncover and learn from the incredible stories of people who have made the impossible possible.
From professional athletes to world-renowned DJs and musicians to global pop artists to movers and shakers in business, we are constantly scouring our networks for the most uplifting, real, and raw stories to share with you. We are so excited you're here to join us today.
We have such an amazing guest joining us today and such a close and special friend of mine. We are so lucky to have him, Tracey Ryans. Tracey was amazing when I started to just write this intro about you. There is a laundry list of things that you have accomplished. So please add anything that you want me to. But the way that I thought to describe you is this international man of mystery. Tracey does so many things. He has hundreds of different jobs. He's the most cultured person that I know. He's not just engaged in culture, but every single day he's creating it. He's been running a consultancy that's worked with Nike, McKinsey, Vanity Fair, LVMH, Rockefeller Center, and so many more. He co-owns over 14 restaurants and venues and is a member of the social impact company Hive that has worked with countless charities and global leaders around the world. Tracey acts as a cultural counsel on so many projects that impact our world. He serves on over 9 boards, including the New Museum and the Central Park Conservatory, and he's worked with the likes of Deepak Chopra and Bill and Melinda Gates. Most importantly, Tracey is one of the best human beings that I know. He's such an incredible person. You'll often see him at the center of social impact, mentoring young folks to give them their voice. He fights every single day for social justice, and he pushes the biggest companies in the world to help create opportunities for our beautiful and diverse future leaders. Tracey, thank you. We love you. Thank you so much for being here. And I would love to know a bit about your backstory. Somebody like you, you fascinate me. I love watching what you do. I love watching the way that you govern your life. And were you born the way that you are today? Was that person created over time? Like, take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, I guess I was. I think as I got older, I believe in 2 systems. I believe in math and magic, right? And I believe as a young person, I was very intuitive. I was very emotional. And as I got older and started studying, I started reading philosophers and people who inspired me, and I realized that I was on the right path. When I got to college, I read Spinoza, Suzuki, Carl Jung, and I realized that all the ideas and the things I was thinking about, other people had been thinking about as well. I was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. I was born in a project building. My mother and father were 2 of the smartest kids in our projects, and they did extremely well. But one of the first and only memories I have of my mother is her dying of a brain aneurysm when I was 5 years old, and I remember the song that was playing. It was called "Midnight Train to Georgia." And I think that stuck with me in my subconscious since I was a kid, knowing that you can't take anything for granted. The point of power is in the present. Everything's now. Turn your light all the way up and shine a light on as many people as possible. So have I always been this way? Yes, I've always been this way. My wife calls me a pathological optimist. And I feel I've always been that person. I'm always a problem solver. When people ask me if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm like, no, I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur because I've never been in business to make money. I never started a business. I never would go into the widget making business or go into buy a laundromat. I've always started businesses to solve problems that I had, and I assumed my friend had at the same time. So I've been thinking the same. I've been connecting the dots since I was a young person, In high school, I was one of the few people that could actually sit at the cafeteria table with the Italians, with the Jamaicans, with the Puerto Ricans. And I always found ways to put everyone together. So yeah, I think I've always been that way. I've always been an optimist. I think losing a loved one so early gave me an appreciation for life. And then as I got older, I started, I got really into my books and philosophy. I started realizing that to live a sincere, authentic life was the most important thing I could do. And I think that's one thing that stayed with me for a very long time.
Wow. So let's talk about living in the present, because it's much easier said than done, right? And we know that by living in the present, we really find our truest happiness. So we hear, right? But so often we're ruminating on the past or anticipating the future, which, can lead to anxiety, depression. So how do you live in the present? What are those strategies and ways that you really live in the present? And then what have been the benefits for you with taking that approach to your life?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. And that's something that I think about every day. So I just got out of a 2-week silent meditation retreat, right? I have a practice called Vipassana that I'm a part of by S.N. Goenka, where it's a 12-day retreat. You sit down, you meditate for 16 hours a day, basically, and you are totally in the present. My wife is a literary agent for Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the most famous living Zen monks today. So we live in Plum Village in Dordogne in the south of France every year for about 3 weeks at the monastery with them. So I've been practicing Zen Buddhism for a long time. I'm also on the board of the Brooklyn Zen Center. Only to say that I've been practicing reading about being in the present, about meditation, about mindfulness my entire life, basically. But after doing Vipassana, I feel like I've read the menu, but I've never tasted the food. And what taught me today, that makes me the man I am today, is a meditation practice that really based on being centered, turning your light all the way up right now. And knowing that the power's in the present, the past is the past, the future is a myth, and all we have is now. So whenever I'm speaking with someone, I know this is all we have is now. And I think I've always been that way. And my wife asked me, how do you remember everyone's names? How do you know all these people? And I say, well, when I meet someone, I try to sincerely connect with them. And when you connect with someone, you ask them open-ended questions. And you get them out of the monotony of their ideas and their thoughts, and you ask them open-ended questions, they remember you. And you tend to remember them too. So when you ask someone a question, you're sincere and you're really curious about other people, you tend to snap them out of that, and you're in the present, and you have them, and you connect with them, and you never forget them. They never forget you.
It's incredible to be in your presence, Tracey. I can feel it right now through Zoom, but being around you physically, you are one of the most engaged human beings I've ever been around. And, they have that phrase, your presence is a gift. It really, really is. And it's so rare. It's so rare these days. So I really appreciate that about you as somebody who's a part of your life. It's really a lovely quality. And I would be interested in how you bring together, you're obviously this deeply spiritual person, but your commercial sense, your business sense is second to none. I mean, every single thing that you touch, you seem to have this sort of like golden touch. And I think many people who are successful in business or successful in spiritual practice kind of see those two things diverging somehow. You're one of the only people that I know that it all flows together. And do you ever feel those things in any type of discord, or how do you bring them together in a way that just seems so authentic and so seamless?
Yeah, I've got ideas about that. I feel it's a sense of, I think intuition is one of my favorite words. Leading with intuition, we say the brain is a good soldier, but a bad lieutenant. The boss is intuition. And I meditate so I can be quiet enough to get my brain quiet enough so I can hear mother intuition tell me what to do, right? And I think in business, it's the same thing. I write and I talk about math and magic, physics and mystics, understanding, I've got an essay called The Cloud Within the Box, understanding that you can teach everyone who went to a Harvard Business School, if you can teach that magic, everyone would be Warren Buffett. If you can teach magic, everyone going to Juilliard would be Bach or Miles Davis, right? So you have to understand the fundamentals, the math, the binary part of the world, right? And then once you get really good at that, you let go, you let love, you let God in, right? And that's that intuition, that's a magic. Think about like a tennis player, like Serena Williams, for instance. She's been playing tennis against the same competitors since she was 8 years old, right? They were the best locals, they were best nationals, they were best in college, they were best in high school. They've been playing together forever. They all have the same fundamental, the same coaches, the same summer camps, right? They all have the same math, but then you get to a place where you're not counting, you're not thinking about playing anymore. You get to a place where everyone has the same technical ability, but then you let magic in, you let intuition in, and that's the difference that makes the difference between all the players. And I think in business as well, once you understand the fundamentals, right, and then you let love in, you let God, you let intuition in, and then that's when you create a family dynamic. That's when you create the cloud within the box, right? Because a lot of people can make a pretty deck, can make a really nice business plan, which is good, but understanding the magic between people and community, I think that's when it all works. And my heroes and the people I look up to have been doing the same thing for a long time. So again, I said I would never go into business to make money, but I've gone into business to solve problems. And what we've usually done is we put together a really smart group of people, a diverse group of people. I say it's like a terrarium. You get a diverse group of fauna, you put a glass jar over it, you give it some sunlight and leave it alone. And all of our businesses are based on fundamentals, getting good people together and letting that magic happen, which is a cloud within that box, which is impossible to get and to make. But it's even impossible to create it. It's even harder to keep that magic together. And I think that's been our secret over the years. We have 14 hospitality companies and 100% of them are still open today and successful even after COVID. And I really feel that it's been our fundamentals, but really the group of people that we call family that's been helping us along the way.
So you're saying one of those component parts is who you surround yourself with, right?
Absolutely.
And also intuition. So I'd love to unpack maybe a time where you didn't follow your intuition or maybe didn't surround yourself with the right people and the learnings from that. And then how do you get back on the train and keep pushing forward? Because I know for someone as wonderful as you, it can be very disappointing when you see those different parts of people or have those kind of experiences. So can you teach us something about that?
Yeah, I guess it happens often. It's sort of like meditation when you're sitting and you're breathing and you're following your breath, right? And you're in spirit for a few seconds and you start thinking about work and your friends in your car. And then we say, just bring it back to the breath. Like back to the breath. So every day you're following your intuition and then your brain gets in the way and says, no, do this, do this. That's the person whose uncle's a cousin's a friend. You should do that. And your intuition says, no, that's not good for you. And we've been in situations where you follow your brain, you don't listen to mother intuition, and it pulls you away. And it happens to me often. I mean, we have 14 companies, but I probably look at, 50 business opportunities a week that are really exciting that I really want to do because I do want to open a hotel in Costa Rica. And I do, so I would go into that business plan because it makes sense because my friend's father's brother's cousin who I really like and I want to help them. But it's not, my intuition says, no, that's not a part of your ultimate goal. So I have to lead with my heart after I look at the math. right? The magic is the most important part. So look at the numbers, look at the business plan, look at the opportunity. Of course, I'll run it by my missus and we'll look at it. And then I'll let intuition come in and tell me what to do. And we've been very, very fortunate and very lucky doing that. Yeah, I've been really fortunate that the companies we haven't had any, not that we haven't had any problems, but we haven't had any failures in that realm because I really follow my intuition with my friends, with my family, with my loved ones, with my art, whether it's buying art or collecting art, it's all really based on intuition. If a friend asks me a question like, what do you think about this jacket? Does it look good on me? My immediate response would be, no, it doesn't look good on you. And he would say, well, what do you mean? I'm like, if you have to think about it, then you know it doesn't look good at it, right? Because when you're looking good and you walk out of that room and you've got your outfit and you know you're killing it, you don't have to ask anyone anything, right? So when you're intuitive, when you know you're killing it, you don't have to ask anyone. That's intuition. And I think when you're quiet enough, being when you have a meditative practice and you're quiet enough, you just know when you're on rails, And I say, you can see a bird flying, and it's pretty to see a bird flapping its wings flying, right? It's very pretty. And that's someone networking, someone's got a good job, they're hustling, or they use the word grinding, which I don't like any of those terms. It's pretty to see a bird flapping their wings. But when you see a bird or a bird of prey doing what it's meant to be doing, riding thermals and soaring like a human doing what they're meant to do, you'll stop a stranger on the street to tell them, look at that bird soaring. And that's the place I need to be and want to be. And if you've ever flown gliders or if you've ever sailed, you don't see the wind, but you know when you've got it. Right? The wind beneath your wings, or the winds in your sail, or the bird riding thermals. And I think through my practice, my meditative practice, I know when I'm in that place. How can I tell you? I can't tell you what wind looks like, but I can tell you what wind feels like. Right? So that's that place I'm always trying to get to when I'm meeting strangers or new people. We're having a dialogue. How are you? Asking open-ended questions to find that common ground, to find that thermal, that wind, that invisible magic, and just riding that. And that's when you have a connection, or that's when you have a business opportunity, or you have a new friend, I say the best experience I've had was backpacking through Asia for almost 2 years. I grew up around a family, I grew up around a lot of intelligent people in my family, and I have a lot of smart friends, but a lot of them, what they love to do is argue and debate. And I've always said, living in Asia and backpacking through Asia, the best conversations I've ever had are with people I don't share a common language with. Right? Because when you're traveling and you're in Asia, or you're in Bangkok, or Laos, or Cambodia, everything's just intuition and body language and connecting and looking at people, whether you're going to trust them, whether you're going to dine with them, understanding what they're telling you without speaking a common language, and then through that intuition and through that understanding and being present, when you come home and you share language with people, it's a lot easier to connect with people in a sincere way. So that's something that just changed my whole world, is understanding that you don't have to share a common language to connect with people and understand them.
It's so beautiful to hear you articulate this, because you can feel how connected you are to your own internal voice. And I guess that's my question for you. I think a lot of people who get very successful, Tracey, are very much in their head. I look myself square in the mirror when I say that. There are times where I can feel very disconnected from what my actual, sensations as a human being are. It can get very heady. And so for those who are disconnected, what does connection feel like? What does intuition feel like? Is it voice? Is it sense? Is it being? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. I think everyone knows. There's a knowing when things are right, and I think when you're quiet enough and you shut down the noise, you can hear it. You know it. You know what's right. You know what kind of music you like. You know when you're home alone and a yacht rock song comes on and you start dancing and you turn around and someone sees you and you're embarrassed because you know you love that yacht rock song, right? You know what you love and no one else can tell you what's good for you or what's right for you. There's a knowing that only you know. And I think when you're sincere with yourself and you follow that, and that becomes a habit throughout your life, just following that instinct, just loving what you know, being, they called us blurs when we were kids, black nerds, because I was one of the few kids listening to metal music and listening to Bjork's band before she was Bjork called the Sugar Cubes. And I loved Joy Division. I loved New Order, but I also loved hip hop. I never let anyone tell me that, that wasn't cool. I never let anyone shame me in my love for the abstract or for the different. So I think I've had that at an early age. I think if I was talking, when I do talk to young people, I'm like Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss, and don't listen to anyone else. Follow what makes you happy and just ride that, when you're trying and you're flapping your wings and you're trying to network or hustle or grind, it's like you're running on the side of a rocky hill or rocky mountain. And when you close your eyes and you let go, not only are you soaring, but you're on rails now, and you're flying, you're cruising once you find that place, but only you know that. So I think once you let go and you listen to your intuition and your binary, your math, what you love, the magic will take you to where you need to be.
Right. Wow. I love that. And so take us through your career journey, because you've been involved in so many incredible projects, incredible companies, and help us understand, where did you start and how did you get to where you are today? And talk to us about some of those ups and downs a little bit.
Wow. Okay. I hope we have enough time for this, but I'm a 400-year-old vampire, so I've done a lot in my life since moving to New York. So I moved to New York in 1993. My first job was as an assistant to an assistant's assistant at CNN. I got here making $21,000 a year, which I couldn't live on. And how I lived was, my first apartment was at 47th between 6 and 7. So that it wasn't the Diamond District and it wasn't Hell's Kitchen. It was Times Square, like right dead in the middle of Times Square.
Me too.
Where were you?
I think I was 51st between 7th and 8th. It was right there, but I thought moving to New York, Times Square, like that's where you want to be as the Southern girl, And I realized very quickly, got to get promoted and get downtown.
Bright lights, big city. What I did love about Times Square was they had a $2 movie theater. So you could see movies for $2. All the movies that were leaving the cinemas, you could see them for $2. That was amazing. But I lived in Times Square, and how I survived was I put on a white shirt every day after work. And a few of my friends, we'd go to happy hour at bars. We'd order seltzer water, and we eat the meatballs and the chicken at the happy hour. And we go from bar to bar every night, and that's how we survived. A friend I went to school with, his brother had started a company in Connecticut called Oxford Health Plans. And they were hiring sales marketing people right out of school. And I went and interviewed and got the job. Their starting salary was $55,000 a year. And I had just moved to New York, had very few friends. So I commuted I got a new apartment on 114th Street in Broadway. I commuted from 114th Street to Trumbull, Connecticut every day. So it was a 5-hour commute. I walked from 114th and Broadway to 125th Street, walked to the other side of the island, on Fifth Avenue, got the Metro North to Trumbull, Connecticut, then got a bus that took us to our office. So it was a 5-hour commute, 2.5 hours each way. I read the New York Times on the way to work, and I read the Post and a few other magazines on the way back. And I did that every day for about 1.5 years. So it was a 5-hour commute from New York to Trumbull, Connecticut every day. And I worked in every department at Oxford Health Plans. I worked as an underwriter. I worked as a claims adjuster, worked in marketing, worked in sales. My dad growing up, he's now the chairman of journalism at UMass Amherst. But when we were younger, he taught comparative religion at UMass Amherst. So he had us reading the Quran, the Torah, the Bible. And I got really fascinated with Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. So I was really into health and martial arts. So when I worked at Oxford Health Plans, one of the things we started was a project called Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. And we were one of the first companies to get traditional doctors to refer to non-traditional practitioners, like Ayurvedics and massage therapists and acupuncturists. So we started a magazine called Healthy Mind, Healthy Body, and that attracted a lot of people who weren't necessarily using their healthcare, but wanted to stay healthy and go to the gym. So Oxford attracted a lot of, smart, healthy people, and our stock went through the roof. We did really well, and I realized that I was working in the corporate world. I wasn't truly the person I planned to be as a boy. That's a line I had. I am now the man I planned to be as a boy. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was there. I was making really good money. I was surrounded by really kind, fun people. I had a lot of people who inspired me at the company, but it wasn't me. And it didn't feel right. So one day, a friend of mine was getting married in New Zealand. And I decided I was going to go to his wedding, and I was going to quit my job and not come back and figure it out. So after about 4 years at Oxford, I left and bought a one-way ticket to New Zealand, ended up backpacking and finding myself and finding, who I was as a person and what inspired me. And that time in Asia was sort of like a silent meditation retreat. Because when you're in a country and you don't speak the language, everything is white noise in the background, right? Everything's white noise, so you're totally alone. So it's totally like you're almost deaf and you're communicating in an interesting way with people. Again, there was no GPS back there. The only thing you had was the Lonely Planet, the Lonely Planet books back then to help get you around. And when I was on that mission, I was just dreaming, thinking about what I wanted to be when I got back to New York. So I was based in New Zealand in 1999. It was 2000 came up, and I was at the America's Cup, and there was a big event at the America's Cup. I was invited to a party, and I met this gentleman, and he came up to me and said, "Who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm Tracey Ryans. I'm from New York City. I left my company. I'm doing a bit of a walkabout around the world." And he goes, "Oh, what did you do back in New York?" I said, "Well, I worked for an insurance company, but I worked in marketing. I'm really fascinated with a sincere way of marketing, right? Looking at psychographics, not demographics, looking at experiential over selling products." That's he goes, "What are you going to do when you get home?" I said, "Well, I'm going to start a company called Contagious Agency, where I'm going to get luxury brands and get their products in front of the right audience in a sincere, authentic way. I want to do the most bombastic events and have touch points for people to keep and remind them of the experience they had with the brand." And this was in 1999, 2000. And he goes, "That's fantastic. Well, when you get back to New York, call me." I said, "When I get back to New York, call you?" I'm like, "Why, do you live in New York?" He said, "Yes, I live in New York." I said, "What do you do in New York?" He said, "Oh, my name's Kevin Roberts. This is my party. I'm the chairman of Saatchi & Saatchi Worldwide." So that was one of my first connections and one of the first business cards I got as I was traveling. And at the same event, I met a woman who kind of asked me the same thing. Like, no one really looked like me in New Zealand in 1999 at the America's Cup on the Louis Vuitton yacht. And the woman says, where are you from? What are you doing?" I said, "Same thing. I'm from New York. My name is Tracey Ryans. I'm doing a bit of a walkabout. When I get home, I'm going to start my company. I'm really excited." And she goes, "Wow, that's amazing. When you get home, give me a shout." I said, "Fantastic. I will." I'm like, "What do you do back in New York?" And she goes, "Oh, my name is Heather Vanderberg. I'm the president of Louis Vuitton USA." She goes, "When you get to New York, give me a shout." So I got her business card, and I continued my walkabout. When I got home, those were the first people I called, and those were the first two clients I had. And I started Tracey Ryans Agency at the end of 2001. And outside of Saatchi and Louis Vuitton, the first 6 months of business, I made $750. Not profit. That's how much money I brought in the first 6 months of business until the Saatchi and Louis Vuitton work kicked in. It was right after 9/11. There was no work. So I hung out at coffee shops, writing business plans, dreaming, writing big ideas, and figuring out how I wanted to change the world. And as a consultant for Saatchi and Louis Vuitton, I already had a really nice network of people in New York for me to go to and reach out to. So I had a brain trust. And how I got that brain trust of people to help Saatchi's luxury brands market to was the fact that growing up in Northampton, Massachusetts, which is a college town surrounded by 5 universities, there were a lot of bands that lived in that town. And at the time, it was home to the band Sonic Youth, the Pixies, Sebadoh, Dinosaur Jr., Yusef Lateef, Max Roach, Archie Shepp, all lived in that town. So being that I was friends with Sonic Youth and a bunch of other bands, whenever any bands came to play, a la R.E.M., De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, I became the fixture for those guys. So I would take them around Northampton, Amherst, show them where to eat and do the whole deal. So by the time I landed in New York, I had a really interesting network of bona fide rock stars and hip hop friends. But I couldn't befriend them when I got here because I spent a few years going to Trumbull, Connecticut. So when I started working for Saatchi & Saatchi, I'd already had a network of interesting friends, so I could throw events and connect these luxury brands to these celebrities in an interesting way. And one of the ways I brought these two groups together was being that it was the year after 9/11, it was very difficult for not-for-profits to raise money. Or it was difficult for anyone to raise money. And being that, I was now, I started my own company, I was now a marketing expert, I was a bit of a Ronin instead of a samurai, where I didn't have a lord, I had to swing my sword. So I went to a number of not-for-profits and charities and said, how can I be of service? How can I help? I don't need money from you, but I would like to help. So I started helping a avant-garde arts organization called The Kitchen, which was started in 1971. And the board members were, Laurie Anderson, Lou Reed, James Murphy from LCD Sound System, etc. But back then, I would raise money by getting my celebrity friends to come and help me throw galas and fundraisers for them. For this very small arts organization. So in doing that, I attracted the attention of the big museums like the MoMA, the New Museum, and they started asking me to come and support them professionally and not pro bono. So I started raising money for these arts organizations, which allowed me to get Saatchi & Saatchi, Young and Rubicon, PBH, their luxury brands to partner with these arts organizations to help them raise money and to get celebrity endorsement through these charities. And that's basically how I started my white collar consulting business. So now going and explaining the magic in a binary way to these clients and showing them how to connect to your consumers and celebrities and high net worth individuals in an authentic way. As a consultant, I had to prove myself. So in proving myself, I decided with a few partners that we would open some brick and mortar businesses to show that my philosophy, my pedagogy actually works. So most consultants can come in and wax poetic about how to do things and what works based on case studies, but no one's really done anything. And growing up in a college town around a lot of professors, they're really good at educating youth and teaching people how to teach and teaching people how to learn. But a lot of them haven't really had work experience. So I knew if we opened companies that actually worked and had a living, breathing manifestation of my ideas, it would take me a long way in my consulting business. So we opened one restaurant, which is one of the hardest businesses to own and run, right? The math and the magic has to come together, right? The average restaurant, fails within 2 years, and you can't fake that. So we opened a restaurant called La Esquina because we solved the problem. We were all sitting around one day, and we said, we live in New York City. It was 1990. No, it's 2002, I believe. We lived in New York City. Why don't we have any good Mexican food in New York City? I said, why? We've been to LA, we've been in Mexico City, but in New York we have no good Mexican food. So we spent some time in Mexico City in the DF, the Federal District. We saw what was going on back then. We brought a few chefs with us back home, and we opened the #1 most authentic restaurant in New York City called La Esquina. So now I had a business that I had started, that I had run, that I had birthed, that was working, that everyone knew about. So as a consultant, I can go in and talk about my beautiful, crazy, bombastic, phantasmagoric ideas and plans on how businesses should work and connect with celebrities and the average, and quote unquote civilians, they called them at the time, and bringing celebrities and civilians together in an authentic, organic way. I could talk about that, but now I had a living, breathing, brick and mortar company, and I could walk them to that restaurant as if it was I was doing a keynote presentation that morning in their office, and have all the characters and the same nomenclature and show them how this business works in an authentic way. And we did it once, and we ended up doing it 14 times.
It's absolutely amazing to hear how you just guided yourself through that process, and knowing your background now, born into a project building. It's incredible that you had the wherewithal to even navigate all of this. So, the topic of this podcast specifically is about impossible. It's about the concept of possibility. And you seem to be now someone, for context for folks who are watching or listening, you have no sense of impossibility. Like Tracy's he went to both Obama inaugurations. I met with him a couple of days ago for lunch, and I'm like, what are you working on these days? And I mean, insert largest company in the world, A, B, or C, he's challenging them to fund Black entrepreneurs and funnel money into minority communities who've been underrepresented and haven't been given a shot. So you are the biggest thinker. Did you always have a sense of that anything is possible, or have you developed that over time as you took bigger and bigger shots and were successful?
Yeah, I think as a young person, I think I've always been a mystic. I believed in magic. I believe anything was possible, right? I've always believed that, this is my dream, and everyone's characters in my dream. I'm both the director and I'm the protagonist. I'm the extra. I'm everyone in my dream. It's a Hindu saying from the Upanishads or the Gita, one of them. But I've always thought that if I put my mind to it, I could really do everything. And knowing that life was short and it wasn't guaranteed, I try to do everything. On my Facebook page, I say, my quote is, "I am the man I planned to be as a boy." And my wife calls me a pathological optimist. Because once I put my mind to something, I write it down, and through reticular formation, right, your brain gets you exactly what you with intention, what you promised it. And I've gotten the most things I've wanted, and it hasn't come easy, but it's taken a lot of work and a lot of intention, and I've only worked on things I care about, And you mentioned, the work with these big corporations, getting them to make changes and adjust, whether it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, or supporting the Black community and HBCUs. I mean, that's something I'm passionate about. And I'm just as passionate about that or this as I was with getting a good taco in New York at the time. and putting together a good team to make that happen, everything with a sense of purpose, right? And letting it go. I have a line that I say, I would do everything with a sense of purpose and leave no ashes. So I would say, light the log, enjoy the unpredictability of a dancing flame, and blow away the ashes. Right? Do everything with a sense of purpose and put everything into it. And when that becomes a habit, you just be a bellow to those fires, and you just keep the magic going for as long as you want it to go. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's just what I was feeling based on what you asked me.
So being a pathological optimist and your confidence and in the fact that anything you visualize and put intention behind can become a reality. Do you have an inner critic? Most successful people still have an inner critic, even if they're incredibly optimistic? And if so, how do you speak to your inner critic and manage your inner critic for productivity and also to not, consume you with negative energy?
Yeah, well, my inner critic is my brain. I say the brain is a good soldier, but a bad lieutenant, and the brain is there for a reason to tell you, that doesn't fit. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. So that math is my inner critic. My brain said that doesn't add up, right? That doesn't add up. But the magical side figures it out for you and tells you how to do it. But one of the things I do have a supreme team with a group of friends. One is on a Zoom call that I go to for advice at times. I'm thinking of this. Have you had experience with this? I ask open-ended questions to a lot of smart people. And I try to surround myself with people who are a lot smarter than me. And everyone, I assume, is a teacher, always a student, never a teacher. There's a famous book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, saying always a student, never a teacher. And I ask a lot of open-ended questions to as many people as possible. And I've been connecting all these dots for a long time. And that inner critic, when mathematically you ask enough smart people about your idea and you figure it out on your own at the end. And that's what I've always done. I have a standing call with a Zen monk who's in Dordogne, south of France. And we talk about what I'm working on, what I'm thinking, what I'm dreaming. And I ask him open-ended questions like, what do you think of what I'm working on? What do you think of my ideas? And I get answers from him. He said, we've been doing this for about 16 years. And I also have a friend who's a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
And I have the same conversations with him. He's a retired Navy SEAL. He's a dear friend of mine. He lives upstate. He's got 2.3 kids. He's got the life. And I ask him the same questions. Right? So now you got the math from the Navy SEAL, always be prepared. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? Always be prepared, always be on time. It's just math, right? The understanding the math, and then you let love in, you let God in, you let intuition in, like in battle, right? You're prepared, everything that you need to do, but when the bad things happen, that's when the fun happens. That's when intuition jumps in. Right. So I asked the Navy SEAL the same question I asked the Zen monk, and I usually get the same answers on how to deal with certain situations and what I'm thinking about things. So you got the math and you got the magic, you got the physics and you got the mystics, and you bring those together. And with life and everything I do, I look at both of those things and try to bring those two together.
And what's your advice, Tracey? You do a lot of mentoring. Like, what do you tell the next generation, specifically the next young, Black, creative, incredible mind that's maybe born into, the projects or into a building or difficult circumstances, who has a big dream? What's your advice?
Well, my advice is I like to ask, again, a lot of open-ended questions to young people and figure out where they are, what they're doing, what their dreams are, what their background is, and find out what they're really passionate about, what they love, right? If you could do something and you weren't going to get paid and if money wasn't an option, you can do one thing, you could sit in a corner of the room and do one thing, what would that be, right? Name the top 10 things, top 5 things, what would that be? And set goals, right? Have goals, yearly goals, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly goals to help you get there. But once you figure out what that is, just read everything on a subject, right? Know everything about that subject, right? Have meetings with people who work in that field. Ask open-ended questions. Go online. Spend hours in wormholes about that one subject, about violins, whatever it is. And once you get that math together, you get all that knowledge and that information and books and videos and films and YouTube and Vimeo, all this information and data. Once you get it all, you become sort of a master at that, right? Like the tennis pro, or like the Harvard student, the Harvard MBA, or like the Juilliard student. Once you get all that math and data together, you become sort of an expert, and then the magic comes in. Like Serena, she's not thinking about how to hit the ball, how to play tennis. She put all the math together. She went to practice. She does 1, 2, 3 over. She doesn't count anymore. But once you have that knowledge and you're passionate about something, you have intention, Once you have the math together, the magic just takes you over and becomes that thermal. And it's effortless, and you're not flapping your wings anymore, and you're soaring, and it's taking you away. And you don't realize you're even there until, you know, you find yourself clapping your heels in the south of your friends celebrating.
And so what would you tell people who might be challenged with a setback? Like, what is your strategy? Okay, you thought this thing was going to be great. You hit a setback or had maybe a family situation that sets you back. And what are those steps or strategies to help people get back on the right track? Like, more tactically, what advice would you have for them?
Oh, man, so yeah, the answer, I'm such a mystic. Again, I'm such a mystic. I truly believe that it's an infinite game, right? It's not a finite game, right? If you do what you love and you do it with sincerity, you're just doing it. You count the money at the end. Things are going to happen, right? Setbacks are going to happen, but do what you love and do it with everything you got. There's no end to this game. If you do something you love, whether you're a mason, a builder, or you write code, just write code. Start a company writing code, or start a company being a mason or a builder, and just do it with all the love you have. And there's going to be setbacks, but there's no end. And when you do it, you're like a spinning dervish. You're in spirit. And you're doing what you're meant to be doing, you're going to soar. It's going to take off. Just every day, just continue doing what you do with love, and just know that there is no such thing as failure or setbacks. It's just a part of the process. It's part of the everyday process. You know, that's life. It's always going to be something. You know, when I was a sales rep and I was younger, they said, you know, if I had to knock on 10 doors to get $1,000 sale, when I was a young person, I was a telemarketer and a door-to-door salesman in high school, college. And I remember my boss saying, if you had to knock on 10 doors, just remember, and you got $1,000 at the end, one sale, just remember every door was a $200 sale, whether you got it or not, right? So every time you talk to someone, it's a win, and it all adds up at the end, you know? And you're gonna have setbacks, you're gonna have drama, you're gonna have failure and loss. But if you do it with spirit and you do it with love, at the end of the month, you're gonna look and you're gonna count the money, and it's gonna all work out in the end.
That is such a beautiful way to put that. And actually, we've talked to so many different people from different career paths, and many of them have articulated a sentiment that's similar to what you just said. We had an artist who said she would make 1,000 phone calls, and if she got one response, that was a win. I think that's part of what we're trying to do here, is actually bring people into what the process to, you know, impossible actually looks like. And I think so few people see those moments that are challenging or dark, or maybe don't match expectations. And that's the moment where they give up. So I love how you were so transparent and honest about that, but also just your frame of mind. Do you foster your own optimism? Is that natural to you? Do you ever get down? And if you do, how do you get back up?
Wow, yeah. I don't get down, but I am in touch with my emotions and my feelings. Yeah, I get down. I get angry. But you know, it's one of those things, those emotions, they're sensations, they're emotions, and they're very important. We have them for a reason. I get sad and I get angry, but I don't bear sadness. I don't bear anger, right? I don't hold it. I don't keep it. I feel it. I take it in, and then I let it go. You know, there's a thing like in the Buddhism, they say fight like a duck, right? So if ducks are in a little pond or a lake, and they're going by each other and they're fine and they're aggravated with each other, once they face each other, they'll fight, and you see feathers fly all over the place. Once they're done, they'll drift away, shake the negative energy off, and they're good, right? There's another phrase in nature, they're like, why don't giraffes get ulcers? Because when animals are in the wild, or giraffes is in the wild, and they see the lions 100 feet away, their heart rate is at a very low level. But when the lions start to attack, they run, their heart rate goes way up. All the energy goes to their legs and where it needs to be. They get out of a distance, they get away from the lions, and they stop, and their heart rate goes all the way down. Right? So they're always in this place of calm and meditation. They're not riding like us humans, where we're worried about everything, and our heart rate's like at 90%, thinking about the meeting or thinking about the project. And when we get there, we're at 95%. And then when we leave, we're worried about it didn't go well. We're at 98%. So our stress levels are always high. So for me, I think part of my meditative practice is always have my stress levels at a certain point and live authentically and give everything I have and turn my light all the way up at all times. But understanding there's going to be ups and downs, right? There's going to be highs and lows. It's almost like a wheel, right? I want to be that hub instead of going and not be exposed to going up and down. I want to be that hub and have that energy, turn the light of that hub all the way up.
Tracey, you have to tell us any favorite books right now, TV shows, podcasts, movies. What are you consuming from a media point of view?
You want fun stuff, or what do you want? What do you
Give
think?
us a mix of both.
Mix of both. I'm looking. So my office is a library. So this is I'll have a lot of rereads. Simulacra, Simulation by Jean Baudrillard, which is very deep, which has to do with understanding that in business and politics and in life, understanding that a simulation is something that had an original. A simulacrum is something that didn't have an original. So we get caught up in the idea of what is right and what is wrong, but based on whose facts. So I'm working on a few new business opportunities, and this connects me with what's sincere and how I can make the world a better place. What else am I reading? I'm also reading The Way of Zen, which is a very good classic book here by Alan Watts, which is a fundamental guide to anyone who's interested in Buddhism or Zen or just life and magic. He's a really good, fun read. He calls himself a stand-up philosopher. And if you want an intro to his work, you can go online on YouTube videos and listen to his talks. He's wonderful. He's beautiful. You learn a lot from him. And it's not too heavy, but it's a lot of fun.
So Tracey, we end every single episode with the same question, and you answered a fraction of it, but I'm interested in hearing you elaborate more. And the question is, what is possible?
And I think everything is possible, and I proved it. I had a conversation at a dinner party, and I was talking to friends, and I say to a group of friends, I said, my goal, what I would love to have is a Sikorsky helicopter, like a Black Hawk Down Sikorsky helicopter, black with leather beige interior. And my wife looks over to me and she says, stop it, Tracey, stop it. Stop that right now. And my friends look at her like, what's wrong with you? Of course he's not gonna get a Sikorsky, military helicopter. But my wife knows when I put my mind to something and I say I want something, I'll get it. And living in Brooklyn, she said, do not do that. Don't let him do that, because in 2 years from now, he will have a helicopter. So I believe everything's possible. And I think if you do things with love and intention, and you put the work in, you put the math in, the studies, read the books, and really passionate about that, and then the magic would follow. And it's like a heat thermal. It's going to take you where you need to be. But you need intention, sincerity, authenticity, and surround yourself with good people. You need a brain trust. You need a supreme team of people who turn your light all the way up. I've got this thing that I say, bello or basta, right? Bello or basta. If you're not a bellow to my fire, and I'm not a bellow to your fire, then basta, right? You're done. I just want to surround myself with people who turn my light all the way up, and vice versa. Anything and everything's possible.
Tracey, honestly, your light shines so bright. I feel honored to be a part of your circle, and I just cherish your friendship and your time that you spent with us today. And I can tell you that somebody listening to this will have a different life because of the dialogue that you shared with us. And there's so many takeaways: the math and magic, always be a student, get quiet enough to find your intuition. I'm going to be ruminating on all of these things, and I know that people who joined us today will as well. So the world is a more inspired place because of you. We're so grateful for you, and thank you so much for joining us.